Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to part 2 of the Splashcast 2024 NFL preview. We are going to talk about the AFC this episode. I am your co-host, Reggie.
I'm your co-host, Norwood, and Reggie's right. Pardos in your ear right now.
Dose in the ear. I don't know how there's a joke there. I just don't know how to make it. Um,
It's already made.
let's start out with the AFC South. So the AFC South, we're gonna get right to it, y'all. You got the Texans are favored to dominate. Dominate. You have the Colts with Anthony Richardson who's come back. You have the Jaguars with freshly paid Trevor Lawrence. And then you have the Tennessee Titans who stole from the Jaguars, or convinced somebody from the Jaguars and Calvin Ridley to go to the Titans to pair it with DeAndre Hopkins, and you have Will Levis. Let's start out with the Texans. The Texans are one of those teams that got better. They added Danielle Hunter. They had a decent draft. They already have the young core of Will Anderson Jr. and C.J. Stroud and Tank Dell, and they re-upped Nico Collins early. They don't really look like, to me, like they have any weaknesses, except maybe the tight end, maybe.
That is just, I guess ish. That's a bottom row problem to me. Overall, this team is stacked. Like you said, the receiver room, Woods.
I forgot about Stephon Diggs.
Yeah. Yes, Diggs, Woods, Collins, Tank Dell, and Mechie. That's nuts.
Man, I really want the Falcons to get Mechie. It doesn't seem like they're going to let him go. But I really thought he was about to be out of here.
You got to think about what it will cost. But whatever it will cost, I pay a third for Mechie right now to get him now.
We already paid a third for Judon, but Mechie, he had the ACL in college in his last game. He had the C word his rookie year. Now he's back, and he seems like he's better than ever. He had a really strong preseason, really strong camp.
I like that kid, man. They
are just so stacked everywhere.
But it also makes no sense to get rid of him, especially as the war of attrition, and you think that you're probably going to go deep into the playoffs. It's probably, hey, I got these guys. Let me rock with these. You can never have too many, specifically receivers, because anything can happen, ankle, knee, any of that. And then you be like, damn, our extra we traded away, we don't have. It makes perfect sense to me. Also, you look at.
Oh, before you go, I'm a liar. Tight end, they got Dalton Schultz. You remember
that's what I thought they had
with the Texans, and they signed Robert Woods as the backup. So they are legit 7 deep at receiver.
Yes. Then you look on the other end of the ball, and you got Will Anderson. Mm-hmm. Offensive Rookie of the Year. Then, like you said, Daniel Hunter, Stingley, Jalen Petrie, and Ward. This team is stacked on the offense and the defense, and it's because you just haven't paid a quarterback yet. It allows you so much financial flexibility that this team, the only thing that concerns me is the beginner's luck. You came right in, and you and D'Amico hit it out of the park. Can you do it again? But everything that I see when it comes to a roster, there's no reason that you shouldn't be able to.
In this division, I think you can. One, you can. It's like the NFC South. If you get an established team like the Bucks, you can win 4 in a row. Like the Falcons won 3 in a row. Like the Panthers won 3 when they had Cam. They won 3 or 4 times in a row. It's the same thing in the AFC South. 2 people we forgot to mention, or really didn't forget, but Joe Mixon added to the running back room is pairing him with Dameon Pierce, to me, is going to bring out more in Dameon Pierce than people think. Dameon Pierce had a really strong rookie season. Then you get a new coach. You bring in a new regime. His production fell off. They bring in a veteran in Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon's good. He's durable, but he's more of he's very good in between the tackles, but he's really good at catching the ball out of the backfield, running routes, hitting the edges. When it comes to running in between the tackles, Dameon Pierce could be that guy. He could be the hammer. Pause if necessary. And then you have
the Texas Hammer. Shout out Beat King, R.I.P. man.
And then R.I.P. man. And then you have second person I want to bring up, who's everybody's raving about. He has not played a game yet, but he's already penciled in as the starter. His name is Kamari Lassiter, DB out of UGA. I've seen everybody talking about him like, yeah, he's different. They said he was too slow. Man, I watched some of them preseason games. He doesn't get beat. And I remember him at UGA. They said he was too slow, and he just kept starting and kept playing and kept starting and kept playing. And I was like, all right. Now.
It's a lot of that. It's a lot of people, they want to eye test you, and they want you to look a certain way. If you get the job done, you get the job done. That's all that matters.
Yeah, man. So the Texans are absolutely loaded. They start out game one. They play the next team we're going to talk about.
And I will go ahead and say this before you go to the next team. This is my favorite future-facing division, the AFC South. I hope for many, many years to come, you have Anthony Richardson and CJ Stroud duking it out.
Yeah, man. It should be interesting. Check your mic. It should be interesting. Make sure it's on the microphone. It should be interesting because you already have Trevor. Everybody's young. They got all young quarterbacks. The veteran quarterback is like 26, and Trevor Lawrence. They have all young receivers for the Texans, really the Colts, Jaguars too, and the Titans got no more veterans, which is interesting. We'll get to the Titans because they're mixed. They've got young players, and then they got veteran receivers who want to kind of win now. So we'll get there. But let's go to the Colts since this is the first game, Texans versus Colts of the season this year.
Showdown.
You got Anthony Richardson. They added Joe Flacco as the backup. You know how that works. If somebody gets hurt, Joe Flacco goes crazy. Jonathan Taylor, of course, is going to be
more of himself.
He should be able to break out even more because you now have another running threat with Anthony Richardson. Michael Pittman Jr., Josh Downs, who played well, A.D. Mitchell in the draft. They have a decent offensive line. Anchored by, all pro Quentin Nelson. Defense, they're still good in the front seven. The cornerbacks are the ones that are going to get the questions with Juju Brents and Jalen Jones, Kenny Moore as the nickelback. And the safeties, of course, with Julian Blackman and Nick Cross are really good. Zaire Franklin and EJ Speed at your linebackers. Shout out to JBP and the network. I like the Colts for what they're trying to do. I need Anthony Richardson to figure out how to take a step forward and everybody get on the same page. In the off season, in the preseason, you could tell that they hadn't practiced a lot together by his first game. In terms of game speed, he may have gotten a lot of reps, but game speed, it just wasn't there because he got hurt. And, of course, he threw the pick six, which looked really bad. But you go back and look at it, it was kind of a bad route by the receiver. Everybody, it just wasn't on the same page. So I expect for the Colts to kind of hold it in the road this year offensively. I don't expect them to, have a breakout year unless Anthony Richardson kind of goes crazy, which he can do. Well, he has the ability to.
I will say that this team, to me, is poised to take a big step. Shane Steichen has been coaching his ass off. I think he's right at the point where he could put himself quietly in the elite level coaches. I don't think that people have paid him much attention because last year he did it with Gardner Minshew, which I think is a testament to true coaching. When you can take a guy who is a good, like Gardner Minshew,
he's in the Raiders now. He's a starting quarterback.
Yeah, when you can take Gardner Minshew and play pretty good last year. They're a pretty good team. Well, now you have Anthony Richardson, who is flying around. Who should be flying around. You get Jonathan Taylor, who should be healthy. And then the receiver room, it's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, But like if I look at a guy like Bryce, he's worlds ahead of where Bryce is right now as far as quarterbacks. So I mean, as far as wide receivers, Pittman, Downs, and Mitchell. That's a hell of a start. And you got Jonathan Taylor,
I don't
who
know about worlds
should be.
ahead anymore with Deontay Johnson over there. That kind of equals it out to me. None of
Well,
them have
Pittman,
game changers to me.
yeah, but I mean, I feel like Pittman been in the system for a while. Downs is his second year in the system. And then you add Mitchell to this, and you have Jonathan Taylor at running back. That's the other part. It ain't Chuba Hubbard as your running back. It's Jonathan Taylor, who at one point was the best running back in the NFL. And then
And they
you
didn't want to
also
pay him.
have, yeah, and then you also have a better coach. So all of those things to me, I think that they should make it difficult on the Texans. And it's not the Texans. It's my question is, where do the Jacksonville Jaguars show up in this entire mess?
So the Jaguars are one of those NFL, or we used to call it NBA 2K teams, NFL 2K teams. They're really good on paper. You have Trevor Lawrence, who everybody believes in. They added Mac Jones as the backup, so that if he ever gets hurt, they at least have some comparable play at quarterback. I don't really blame Mac Jones for the dysfunction of New England. He's one of the few quarterbacks that in New England, he just kind of got screwed over. He played a whole season with no offensive coordinator. Bill Belichick was the offensive coordinator. So you have that. You have Travis Etienne Jr., of course, at running back, along with Tank Bigsby, which is a really solid pickup for them because he's more of a power back. Christian Kirk as your wide receiver, along with Gabe Davis. And Brian Thomas Jr. looks like the real deal from LSU. He was opposite Malik Neighbors with Evan Ingram. So that offense looks crazy. That defense looks crazy too. Adding Eric Armstead to pair with Trayvon Walker and Josh Hines Allen, as well as Devin Lloyd. And then you have Andre Sisco, who had a breakout year last year. Tyson Campbell just got re-upped at corner, and Ronald Darby with Darnell Savage. So with Foye Oluokun, as well as the leading tackler for the NFL for the last 5 years.
We should not have gotten rid of that guy, boy. Let me tell you, that was
couldn't pay him.
Should have found a way.
Jacksonville came and gave that man $100 million. We was like, hey.
And he'd have made 100 million tackles. Let me tell you, he'd been worth every $1 million that they paid him. I don't care what you say. I regret not having the leading tackler for every year since we gave him away, including the year that we gave him away. I can't understand how that's a reasonable thing for you to do. But when it comes to the Jaguars, like I've told y'all, especially if y'all listen to this podcast, shout out to y'all people who do. Always remember, tell your people, like, follow, subscribe. But for me, I've seen too much of Trevor Lawrence be Daniel Dimes, including getting a big contract that he doesn't deserve. I don't trust him. He is gas station sushi. Do not eat, do not touch, stay away from it. I want to see if he can ascend to the person that people believe him to be, and that for all intents and purposes, they've considered him to be his entire life. With that said, the receivers, Christian Kirk and Gabe, are okay to me. I think that Brian Thomas has to be good. Not okay. He has to be good for this thing to go. Otherwise,
he looks like it.
I do, and that is true. The clips that I've seen, he has looked very intriguing.
He is cooking them deep. And I don't know who the DBs are in the preseason, but he cooking them dudes.
That's what I was about to say. With that saying, you know that the media team finds the best clips to put out. So we're gonna get to see soon and very soon who he really is.
Week 1.
Yeah. Replacing Ridley is going to eat. Them receivers better look good. That's what I'm gonna tell you. And then Ridley being in the AFC South, you're gonna get a close-up of him. And if he is very productive and your guys look mid, and your quarterback gonna look mid, because I think your quarterback is mid. So to me, everything is kind of linked to as far as that goes. Now, what scares me is the defense. They got Eric Armstead. They have our coach last year. Ryan Nielsen was the guy who made the Falcons go last year. I don't know how he missed the opportunity to get a head coaching job, but I think I've said time and time again, I think he deserved one. And more than that, I'm afraid of what he can do with I think is a good defense. He was doing it last year with Jesse Bates and just kind of piecemealing it together as best he could. These guys are good. They're athletic and they're rangy.
And they
I think
played
that
7 or 8 players too. They got Josh Allen. Like
correct.
they are loaded at defensive line.
That was the biggest pickup. Like that's the secret pickup to me that I think that nobody saw was, and I don't understand why he left to make. I don't even think a lateral move. I guess the reason it's a positive move is you have what you thought was going to be a better defense. I think that in hindsight, Ryan Nielsen should have kept his ass in Atlanta and been a happy camper. I don't know if that was the opportunity that was afforded to himself, but I think that if you look at the toys that we have and look at what Jacksonville has, I'd be happy to come back to Atlanta. But with that said, I think he's going to do a damn good job, and he's scary, especially for you guys. Will Levis, C.J. Stroud, and Anthony Richardson, keep your head on the swivel. He's sending defensive ends at you like nobody's business.
I agree that he's one of the underrated pickups, and I think that defensive line is going to be scary. Ain't no way I would have stayed in Atlanta. They fired Arthur Smith. When he took that job in Jacksonville, we didn't sign any of these players that we just signed. We signed these players in August. He took that job in June. It was
that's
like,
what I'm
you know
saying
what?
Is in hindsight, it looks now, today, this moment, as we're ready to start the season, it looks better than the Jacksonville job. But when he left, I don't think Arthur Smith being fired should have anything to do with it. I think that he should be thrilled. He was coaching against Arthur Smith on most weekends. You're going to go out there and roll out the stupidest quarterback we can find, and then I have to coach this defense that's not that good into being damn near world beaters, top 10 defense with a bottom third roster.
No,
nothing.
You didn't have because Grady got hurt. Yeah, Ryan Nielsen is going to make that defense even better than they are. They were already good last year. We saw them.
We just praying that our defense can be as good as it was last year.
Nah, that's good. If better, but
what I'm saying is, if it could just be if we could just get a top 10 defense, we happy. I know I am.
Yeah, I expect Jacksonville to be that deep. This is going to be an interesting division because all the defenses are stacked. It's really about scheme and coaching. And Jacksonville, defensive wise, is built to beat the Texans. I know it's the Colts and the Titans, but they built that team. Everybody's looking up at the Texans right now. So if you built their defense, they have built that defense to beat the Texans. And then you kind of have your outlier. You have your Titans, the Tennessee Titans.
I don't think they're an outlier.
You don't know what you're gonna get with these guys. This is the first year sans Derrick Henry. No Derrick Henry. You're going into with Will Levis and Mason Rudolph. You have Tony Pollard and Tyjae Spears, and they have Tony Pollard listed at number 1, which I can't understand that.
Yes.
Calvin Ridley, DeAndre Hopkins, and Tyler Boyd at wide receiver. Okonkwo at tight end. He's actually pretty good. They have one of the best offensive lines and revamped offensive lines that you will see this year, with Lloyd Cushenberry at center, J.C. Latham at tackle, young boys. Then you got Skoronski, Raduns, and Petit Frere to round out the offensive line. All those names tell you that they know how to maul and wrestle people. Cushenberry, Okonkwo, Skoronski.
Skoronski, my boy.
Defense, they still got Sweat. They have Tavondre Sweat and Jeff Simmons. Sweat is going to be a good guy because he came from Texas. He's like 1,000,000 pounds and athletic. Arden Key, and then you have Ernest Jones with Kenneth Murray, man in the middle at linebacker, along with Monty Hooker, L'Jarius Sneed at defense.
That's what I'm looking for.
DB, as well as Awuzie and Roger McCreary at nickelback. This team could be a spoiler for a lot of players. They're in the same boat as the Colts for me, because you got to figure out, you kind of know what you got with Will Levis, but you need Will Levis to take that next step in order for them to challenge the Texans. And we assume the Jaguars. Mm-hmm. Right now it's between Titans and Colts. you assume the Jaguars are the biggest threat to the Texans. But Tennessee, intriguingly enough, can make life very uncomfortable for the other three teams.
So to me, it's interesting because the realistic expectation, hold on, before we go there. Yeah, you're right. We have to figure out what Will Levis is. Depending on who he shows up as is going to determine a lot. Ridley and Hopkins as wide receivers increase the expectation.
Yeah, 100%.
They have to have the expectation of being the best. Realistically, this team is probably competing to be 3 and maybe 2. Just trying to stay out of 4 is an accomplishment to them. Being better than the Jaguars is accomplishment number 1. If you can pressure the Colts into playing for that second position, then it's an accomplishment. I don't know if there is enough to go around to compete with the Texans. I think everybody else would be happy to be second here. I think that Hopkins and Ridley increase the pressure for them to be number 1, which is something I don't think is attainable for those guys.
You said, well, you alluded to it. Let's step into it because I don't necessarily agree with that. Rank them. Division winner and how they finish for the AFC South.
Oh, easy money. Texans, numero uno. Colts, dos. Titans, 3. Jaguars, 4.
See, I got Texans, Jaguars, Colts, Titans. You said Jaguars 4?
4. I think
behind the Titans.
Yes. I think that Levis, like Ridley and Hopkins are going to carry Levis. He'll be okay enough. And to throw to those guys who will be in one-on-one coverage.
I'm not mad at it. That O-line is crazy. O-line is crazy. But I just don't have the Colts battling for second. If that's the case, if you're going to go Texans and have the Jaguars 4th or have the Jaguars behind the Titans, I think it would go Texans, Titans, Jaguars, Colts.
Jaguars don't score enough touchdowns for me. I don't trust them at all. I think that's going to be.
And the Colts do? I don't trust the Colts. I
think that Anthony Richardson, Jonathan Taylor, and those 3 receivers and Shane Steichen have way more trust than Dougie P and the Jaguars with Danny Dimes at quarterback.
I would agree with everything you said except for Anthony Richardson. He's garnered no trust. There is no trust for Anthony Richardson. He was hurt his whole rookie year. So that is if you want to talk about trusting QBs, then Trevor Lawrence, then all the other QBs have more trust in Anthony Richardson because he doesn't done anything. And when he has done something, it's been interesting. The same issues that he had at Florida have followed him to the pros. So now, and Shane Steichen, you're right now. Shane Steichen is the guy that can fix him. He is the guy that can fix him. And I hope that they bought a slip and slide like the Bears with Caleb Williams, and you teach him how to slide. Just because you 6'4", 250 don't mean you need to go try to take on somebody that's 6'4", 250.
That is true. You have to protect yourself. But with that said, for me, I bet on Anthony Richardson at Florida. I said, hey,
I know you did.
I'm
That's
looking
why
at this guy. No, if I bet on you and you prove me to be right, I'm riding that horse until that horse throws me off. And my eye test told me, hey, this guy's going to get drafted pretty high. Now, I didn't expect him to go quite as high as he did, but I did expect him to be a first rounder when some people said that he would be in the XFL supplemental draft. That's another.
I said third to fifth round, and his talent tells me 3rd to 5th round.
Now, well, we could go back. Now, at one point,
it's right there. It's right there. Yeah. There was no way I said he was going to be a first round pick, and I still don't think from his production at Florida and everything that he was a first round pick.
If you go back and look and redraft that, he's still right there, undeniable. But that's beside the point. At the end of the day, I think that Anthony Richardson has more than enough to get it done. He has the right coach, and he has just enough that the offense should work. So yes, I'm taking the Colts at 2, Titans at 3, and then everything that I've said about Trevor Lawrence has come to fruition. He's not that guy. I knew he was going to get paid, and he's still not that guy. He didn't get money and then just mysteriously get better. So for me, oh no, barbecue chicken. He's
So
the worst value. He's the worst value at quarterback in the AFC South. Easy.
So mine is going to be Texans, Jaguars, Titans, Colts is probably where I would land. I think the Jaguars are 2. I think the Titans are 3. I think the Colts struggle a little bit with Anthony Richardson. They probably play spoiler. This division always has a spoiler the last part of the season. If you're in 4th place, you going to make sure 2nd place may not get the wild card. So,
you know what? I'm getting kicked out of the club, but let me tell you going with me.
So, I mean, you're right, though. This is a very intriguing division because outside of 1, and really, 1 is just a bad day away from being, 1 through 4 is very interesting.
There's a team every year that turns into a pumpkin. We don't want it to be the Texans, but because they got a black coach and a black quarterback, and we want to see them be successful. I mean, and of course, shameless plug, I live here, so it's just better when the team is good. But yeah, they could turn into a pumpkin. We've seen it happen too many times.
Yep. So we made our picks. Texans division winners. Norwood has the Jaguars 4th. I have them 2nd. Then the Tennessee Titans and the Colts round out.